Alright, hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. This video is about learning music by ear and trying to find the musical key that we're in any particular piece of music, right? How do we find the key? We want to find the tonal center by ear. So I've got some copyright-free music here, and I should be having some links right below as well, so you might want to check them out for yourself. But I'm just basically talking about identifying all the diatonic notes that go within a key and being able to find out what key it's in, right? So the first thing really is knowing probably mainly the major structure of a major key, a major scale key, right? The main structure of it. And it starts from any one of the main 12 notes. There's main 12 notes that we have, A through G, with three sharps and two flats, right? We have a C, an F, and a G have a sharp, and B and E have a flat. Now it could be named differently, but I'm just talking about the standard way. So that would mean A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, and then let's just do it on the guitar, right? That would mean like A from a 5th fret on this E string, right? And then B flat, B, C sharp, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, and G again. Right? That's also a G, just same as up here, but an octave higher. So that's on one string, but as long as we know those 12 notes, we want to understand the structure for a major key. This is going to help us find what key a song is in. And that structure is what we call 2 whole steps, a half step, and 3 whole steps and a half step. And I have some other videos talking about keys and modes and scales and all that. But you hopefully have some understanding of that by now, and you might already know how to identify some stuff by ear. But we're talking about trying to identify that key, like you said, that 2 whole steps and a half step and 3 whole steps and a half step. And that's something that we can see on a piano keyboard, right? We notice it's got all the white keys, but then we have 2 black keys, and then we have 3 black keys. Those are those whole steps where we're skipping what we call a semitone, right? So if I was to start out from the C note on the 8th fret right here on this E string, it's a C note, right? So if I play a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step from a C note, I'm going to get the key of C major, right? If I play that whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step from an A note, I'm going to be in the key of A major. So we got to remember those 12 notes we talked about, A through G, with the 3 sharps and the 2 flats added. And the A through G is 7 notes, right? But if you add those 3 sharps and 2 flats, you're going to have 12 notes altogether, making a full register, right? Now, if we want to make what's called an octave out of that register, we're taking out a certain set of notes, or 8 notes out of that 12 notes. So from the key, in the key of C, from the C note, we're doing this whole step, half step. What that means, we're skipping a note when we're doing the whole step. We're just going to the very next note when we're doing a half step. So whole step, half step. That means the first one is going to skip a note, right? So we're going to go from C to D, right? Next one's going to be E. That's 2 whole steps, right? Next one's going to be F. That's our first half step. So it's 2 whole steps, half step, then 3 step. The first of 3 whole steps, which is G, right? So we go from F to G, and then we're back on A again because it starts out over again from G is the last letter, and it starts out at A again, right? So we have A, and then we have B, and then we have C right here, right? So you can see we basically did the 2 whole steps and a half step, and then 3 whole steps and a half step. That is the structure for any major key. If we want to start from an A note on the 5th fret, we were just on the 8th fret playing a C note, right? A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, etc., right? But going back on an A note, and let's say we want to play in the key of A major, right? We want to go from the A note and do the whole step, half step, whole step, half step, into an A note again up here. And that's the key of A major, right? What are those notes? Well, we'd have to identify them out of that 12-note sequence, right? Out of that 12-note sequence. So A, we know there's a B flat and there's a B, so the second note is B in the key of A major, right? And then the next note in the fretboard is C, but really the next note in the key of A, because we're in 2 whole steps, the next note in the key of A is C sharp, right? The next note in the key of A is that first half step, which is going to land from C sharp to D, right here on the 10th fret, right? And then we're going to do our 3 whole steps, the E, that's 1, and then F sharp, that's 2, right? We're skipping F, and we're going to F sharp, and then we're going to G sharp, right here on the, 16th fret, right? And then we're going back to A again, right? So we're doing our 2 whole steps and a half step, and 3 whole steps and a half step from the A note. We can do that from any note to find out what key, to play that key, right? To play from the G, key of G in the 3rd fret, 2 whole steps, half step, 3 whole steps, and a half step, you're back on a G note again. And you can identify them by identifying which notes those are out of that 12 note sequence, right? So if it's a G, the next note is A, 2nd note in the key of G is A, it's a whole step, right? And the 3rd note is a B note, right? That's another whole step. The 4th note is a C note, right? That's that first half step. 5th note in the key of G major is a D note, right? That's a first of 3 whole steps. Then we have our E note, that's the 2nd of 3 whole steps. And then we have F sharp note, that's our 3rd of 3 whole steps. And then we have our G note again. So as long as we know this, we can start playing in a key from any note, right? So just taking a backing track, drag track right here. This is some copyright-free music, so it's just kind of random. And like I said, you might check out these tracks, but you also might look at some other ones or just start trying to find the key to any song. And one of the first things we want to kind of do is internalize notes. If we're trying to listen to a song, we want to try to internalize the bass notes, for example, the bassiest notes, which are oftentimes the lower note sequences, like you might have a solo on top of it or some dramatic strumming or rhythmic section on top of it. But a lot of times that bass line might have some fairly simple structure to it, and you can hear those notes pretty clearly if you just focus on those bass notes and even try to hum along with them. So let's just play this one track right here. It's called Talking With You, and part of this audio library. But you can see it's got pretty easygoing mellow music, but you can hear the bass line in there. Maybe you can hear it a little bit. So I'm listening to those notes kind of first, right? When I'm trying to identify what key is something in, I'm going to try to identify even just some of those notes. But also just playing to the song, maybe I just try to take a stab at some notes and just see if they kind of sound like they fit in. Maybe I'm new and I'm just barely trying to, it seems kind of, how can I ever figure this out? But trust me, you practice, you'll get closer and closer every time. Before you know it, you're really good at it. So, but let's just hear this bass line again here. So you hear this. So, right there, you hear this B note, kind of fits in. But this is more like the note he's playing right there, that first note, which is a C sharp note. So, kind of humming, I'm internalizing the notes first, which allows me to find them on the guitar strings somewhere easier. C sharp, I hear a C sharp, I hear a B, so those are 2 notes that feel like they're definitely in the key. And I play a note that doesn't feel, how about this? Does this sound, doesn't really sound right to me. Maybe you can hear it. Maybe you can kind of tell how that doesn't really seem to fit in the song, but this, say I go down here, another note, find this other note here, does this fit? Doesn't really seem to fit. So that means it has to be like the next note. One of those 2 has to fit. This one here sounds like it fits. It's an A note. So I got like 3 of the notes right here. Right, that's 2 whole steps. So that's either that set of 2 whole steps that starts out the key. So this A note possibly being the first note of this key right there. Automatically I know that right there is 2 whole steps that seem to fit pretty good. That's very likely. That could be the beginning of the key right there, because it's 2 whole steps. Or it could be the first of the 3 whole steps, or the second note of the 3 whole steps. So let me turn it off for just a moment. So while I'm trying to find that, so I'm going from the A note now, kind of thinking, well, maybe it's possibly in the key of A. Let's go and turn it back on, and we'll try to play the key of A to it. Let me rewind a little bit. Just see here. And then maybe, like, if I have this 2 notes here, see if this one here is a half step, or is it more likely a whole step? Feels like it's probably this half step note, which is a D note. Then go back here, maybe I can identify this note right before the A note. Kind of sounds like it makes sense. So I'll play my A Ionian mode right here. also I might know another key or two that's got a lot of the notes from the key of A, like D or E. You know, see I'm playing the key of E right now. It actually sounds pretty good, so let me see if I can distinguish. I feel like this note's definitely in there. That's also in the key of E or the key of A. Right? This is a G sharp note. I feel like the A and the B and the C are definitely in there. So the real question is really just this one note. This would determine whether it's in the key of A or if it's in the key of E. This would be the 7th note in the key of E, which starts on an E note right here. So, or it's the 4th note in the key of A. So, but I want to find out which one of those two notes. It can be kind of ambiguous because sometimes a song leaves out a certain note that would determine for sure which key it's in. I do feel like this note could be a little questionable, so let's try to keep it. But that note really doesn't sound right, which is the same note, so it looks like it's definitely the key of E, based in the key of E. Now the other question is, like I said, it's starting out from a C sharp note. What is a C sharp note? That's a note in the key of E. It would have to be for it to be in the key of E because they were playing a C sharp note. So what I would do is just play from that C sharp note and see if that minor scale, because C sharp is the corresponding minor. Sorry, I have a bird, but like I said, corresponding minor for E major is C sharp minor. So if I'm playing that, let me go back. I might think of it as being in C sharp minor, which is really the same thing as the key of E major. However, it's using the C sharp note as its tonal base. So I'm playing from the C sharp, but it's still all notes from the key of E major. So I'm playing the key of E major or C sharp minor. If I could play any of the modes from the key of E major, C sharp minor is just the 6th mode out of the key of E major. So I found out what key this is in, and if I know my modes, I can play all over the fretboard, right? So you already hit an off note there. So if I start hitting some off notes or I'm playing in some other key, a couple notes might fit in because probably some notes overlap with this other key. I'm playing the key of C also. Does that really sound right? It doesn't. So I'm deducing that this is in the key of C sharp minor, which is a mode out of E major, right? So they're all the same notes. It's just starting from the C sharp note, in E major. So that's just one song or track here we discovered seems to be in the key of C sharp minor or E major. You could say it's an E major, but we could say C sharp minor because the C sharp is the tonal base of this track. Now if I go to another one here, let's just say we get to another one here and test this, and this is just this one here, and these aren't telling me what key they're in right offhand, at least that I can see. They might say somewhere, but I'm just kind of finding these by ear, right? Now this one here, let's see, how about this one? I can hear a bass note in there. I can hear it. It actually sounds like C sharp again. Maybe it's in the same key. Maybe I'll try it real quick, like E major. I might try to match key notes that I'm actually hearing somehow being played in the mix somewhere. Like I'm hearing the bass notes, but it is a rhythm section, so I might have a hard time deciphering, like, you know, especially if it's played on piano or something like that. This is probably a synthesizer or something like that. But, you know, if I was to play a bunch of E major, C sharp minor, same key essentially, and just see if that's all sounding right. And if the notes sound off, then I might try to find another key that seems to be similar, like A, or B flat, I think, or B. A or B, I think, might be similar to the key of E, have a lot of the same notes, but not necessarily all of the same notes. But this is pretty simple, because I would say this one's also sounding like C sharp minor, E major. I would say this one's in the same key, believe it or not. It's not like I chose this intentionally, but I'm just trying to show you how to, like, you know, find the bass note in a track. Let's try another one here. I don't know what key it's in. We're just gonna see. It might be something like C or E as well. Pretty common keys, right? There's just a mellow melody here. We hear some bass lines in it, and I can just start playing some melody. See if I can start just, like, I can hear this note sounds good, this one doesn't, so I'll probably skip up and try the next one. Couple of those notes, they sound good, except for all of a sudden popping this note doesn't sound right. So I played 2 whole steps. Maybe that's the 3rd whole step right there in this sequence, and this is actually the first of the 3 whole steps. Sounds like it. So then I would just go back 2 whole steps and find this, probably the first note of this key. Mixed up a little bit. I'll just keep trying to get back on track, finding which key I'm in. Like, but let's see if we go back to the bass line. So I'm finding it. It's actually starting from a B note, and I'm seeing there's, you know, these 2 notes definitely sound obvious to me. B and C sharp are definitely in this key. B flat, E seem to definitely be in this key. So this is definitely part of the key. There's 2 whole steps. See if this sounds good or if this sounds good. Maybe a little hard to tell at first, but it sounds like it's in the key of E major. Just happen to all be in the same key, right? All the notes seem to work in this track. So let's go ahead and stop this. Oh wait, here, this is another copyright free, so let's go ahead and try another one here real quick. So those all actually seem to be in the key of E. And this one kind of sounds like a similar type of track, so it might be also in the key of E. Let's hear the notes. Finding a couple of notes. This one didn't seem to work. Definitely sound like it's off, like it doesn't fit in the song. This one sounds like it fits somewhere in the mix. This one too. Got 2 whole steps here probably. Now, which one is this? How about this? Does this fit? This one seems to fit better than this one. So it seems like we got 2 whole steps and a half step going on right here. Maybe this is the beginning of the key. Or maybe it's this one, because I'm not, you know, that's going to really determine which key. It's in the key of A. This is the 7th note of the key of A. Or this is in the key of, like, D. And this is the 4th note in the key of D, I think. And A and D are very similar keys. They have most of the same notes, so that kind of makes sense. I'd be confused between A and D major at this point, just based on the notes that I'm finding according to the bass and maybe playing some melody. So let's just try, you know. This 7th note doesn't really sound right. This is the 7th note. It's also the same as this note, 7th note in the key of A major. It's not really sounding right. Let's go back over to D major. tell, because it seems to be in the key of D major. I might find the bassiest note out of it, the root note of this song, and see if I can identify that, and then maybe it's a different mode in the key of D major. Still in the key of D major, but it might have a bass center, a tonal center of a different note besides the first note in that key. So sound like you're really just going back to D. So it's a D major, right? So let's go back to that one more time, real quick, before we go back to these. These are just mellow songs. And you can see here, just going back to D major. Any notes I play out of D major seem to all work. What is the corresponding minor for D major? Well, we knew the corresponding minor for E major was C sharp minor. So with D major, which is 2 frets lower, the corresponding minor is going to just be 2 frets lower from the minor from E major, C sharp minor. So go down 2 frets, that's B minor. B minor. So D major and B minor are both in this key. They should make sense. Just noodling around, but you can hear how B minor and D major, same key, you know, B being the 6th note out of D major, right? If you go from a D note here, you know, E, F sharp, G, A, B, right? So B is in the key of D major. So I'm finding the key right there, right? So you found a couple in the key of D, a couple in the key of E, one in the key of D. Here's another one right here. Little mellow melodic type tracks. So it's not like we're playing any rock type stuff per se, but you need the same principles that we're going to apply. You're going to identify bass notes and so forth. But just play a random note, see if it sounds like. Kind of seems like it fits. Play a whole step above that, and it doesn't really sound like it fits. Play a half step below that, and you know, if this one's not good, this one definitely should be good. They both sound good right here, so that's making sense. So we got a half step. Which of the 2 half steps is it? This is all we really need to come to. Maybe this is the first note right here of this key. So I'm getting the first 2 whole steps, and then a half step or a whole step. That's going to determine whether this is a 2 whole step part of the scale or the 3 whole step part of the scale. And I can find this note anywhere else. Right over here, it's just the same note right here on these 2 strings. So I can play this. So I'm playing on this G string right here. I'm playing this G sharp note, and I think it's kind of looking like it's going to be the G sharp, because right here it seems to be a half step instead of a whole step up here. So let's try playing in the key of G sharp from right here. This is a G sharp note. So seems to be pretty clearly in the key of G sharp. I'd say a song like this probably based on the major, which we can hear that G sharp note pretty clearly. So the minor for G sharp would be F minor, right? Starting from the 1st fret on this E string. That's where you play your pentatonic. But let's go back here for a second. Maybe we'll go to that one in a second or so. This is some other stuff. Whoops. So once again, sound like it's G sharp. I'm just playing all my modes in the key of G sharp note here on the 4th fret. That's where you do that whole step, half step, whole step, half step. They should all make sense in the strat. And they do, right? So if I play some other notes, that doesn't make sense. That's not working. This one does. Both of those do, actually, because they are the 3rd and 4th note in the key of G sharp major. And the next thing from there is getting the style of that piece, whatever it is. This is some tropical type of sounding something. I know it's in the key of G major, so I can just kind of see if I can capture some of the essence of this style while I'm playing the key of G major. Just tinkering around, the more you play to it, the more you're going to internalize that piece and get better at that style, right? But once you got the key, you can do a lot. Let's go to the next one here real quick, one more. Yeah, this looks like this has some different pieces in it. So we're just listening to some kind of trancy stuff here. What does it sound like? It's got bass notes to it, certainly plenty of synthesizer in the mix. I can hum or try to find or match some of that. Let's play a random note, a B note. It doesn't really sound right. C sharp note sounds. And the E flat note. E. So C sharp, E flat, and F sound like they probably fit. And I try to find the bassiest note. I can try to match the note right away, or I can just tinker around and try to find some of them. Sounds like the bass note right there, C sharp. Kind of sound like it's a C sharp major, not minor, but C sharp major. Play through the C sharp major scale and see if all the notes are making sense. If anything sounds off, we're going to try to find if maybe the next note over to it sounds good. See this one? I'm not sure about. Play this note. Does that sound any better? No, it sounds worse. But this doesn't really sound bad, so I can hear it's in the key. Key of C sharp major. Here's another one. Find a note in you hear any of the notes. Doesn't have to be the bass note. That's a note probably that sounds good. Is that? Nah. Got one note here. And certainly if this one doesn't sound good, then this note has to probably sound decent. And it does. You got a whole step going on. How does that sound? Move down a half step. Doesn't sound bad. Definitely sounds better than this one. So you got 3 of the notes right here for this key. This is obviously after this half step right here. It has to either be the first note of that key, or it has to be the 4th note, which starts after the 2nd half step. So let's see if we can identify. Let's just play from here and just see 2 whole steps, half step. Sounds good to me. Let's try it as a whole step, just in case maybe it's a 3-note pattern. Just double check. Nah, definitely not good. This one's good. And I'll even double check past the first note. It seems to be the first note, in this case an E note. And I'll go back to what should be the 7th note in the key of E major, just 1 fret behind it. Does that make sense? Sounds good. Is this one here? Nah. So I can definitely deduce that this is in this note's key right here. This is an E note, because I can see it's in the right position according to this note. If I know this is an E note, the 12th fret of an E string, I can quickly see that's an E note. So let's try to play for my E Ionian over here. So definitely key of E major. Not C sharp minor, because I can tell the bass note seems to be going back to E major. It's got that bright sound to it. Hear that? If you can hear that, it goes into the song. So that's just another one here. Let's try another one here. This one sounds very similar. So, kind of piano going on, right? You can hear those bass notes clearly. Clearly here, these are definitely notes from this key. So this is a half step right here. It's either our first note or our fourth note of this key. It's a D note, right? The first note, then this is a D major. But I'm playing from this D note. When I get to the fourth note of the key of D, it doesn't really sound right. The fret higher, it does kind of sound like it might be right. So that would mean that maybe it's in the key of A, right? This is the 7th note in the key of A. Let's try it for down here where I can play it. Hear each note clearly, see if it's making sense. Maybe play D again and see if there's anything sounding right or off about that. That gives you more of a clear indicator if it's an A or D. Doesn't sound right there, which is a G note, which belongs in the key of D, but not in the key of A. The key of A, a G sharp, is what we need. So we're definitely feeling like we're in the key of A, major. Playing from an A note, a 5th note on, or 5th fret on this E string, it's an A note, 2 whole steps, half step, whole step, half step, back to an A note. Let's actually play the G note, doesn't belong. Key of A major. Not the minor, I can tell it's got that bright sound to it. It's going back to that A note. So we can even break down the chord progression with that bass line typically, if there's the chord progression. That first chord is A major. Would be a C sharp minor. The key of A, so we know the corresponding chords. The first chord in the key is A major, second one's minor, third one's minor, fourth one's major. Now, they're not necessarily all going to fit like to the song, but they're all notes from that key. So theoretically, they could work in different ways, right? So anyway, this is just a few tips on finding a key. I'm just trying to maybe try another quick one right here. These are all real mellow, melodic tracks, I get it, but try them with any songs. Try to identify bass notes or humming a root note to that song. Might take you a few moments to even identify the bass well. Find one bass note that seems to make sense. And work your way from there. This note is not making sense. Maybe this one does. Work around that half step. Is that either the beginning of your 2 whole steps or the beginning of your 3 whole steps? really, if it's the beginning of the 2 whole steps, then we would be in the key of D right there. This note here doesn't sound quite. Sometimes it's a little ambiguous. I'm not sure about a note. I'll play the notes next to it and see if that sounds good. This one definitely doesn't sound good. That definitely doesn't sound good. This one sounds like it can fit. Now the 7th note in the key of G fits more than this note, so I would say it is in the key of D. Unless we hear any other bad notes, then we need to reassess, and we know another similar key to D is the key of A. We might try that as another one. But I can hear that 7th note in the key of A. It doesn't sound good. It's more like this note here, not this note. 7th note in the key of A. This is an A note. This would be the 7th note in the key of A. It's not making sense. It sounds like it's in this. So that's going to determine that it's in the key of D. We can see that right here we're on a D string. And this is the first half step from a D note. D, whole step to E, whole step to F sharp. G, right? So that's our first half step in the key of D. So that was the key of D major. So maybe this gives you an idea of how to find some keys. I'm not trying to go through too many examples here, but I think you're getting the idea, right? We find it's a real slow, bassy. I can hear a bass note in there. Sounds like it's a C sharp. Sounds kind of like a darker sound to it too. It's probably in a minor mode. Maybe it's in C sharp minor, which is in the key of E. Getting down to these 3 notes on this string here, I'm kind of a little unsure. Does this one sound right? That one sounds worse. See, it sounds like it's probably these 3 notes. Deducing, using that same method here, this is probably in the key of E. Or C sharp minor. Same thing, right? Playing from the C sharp, just playing a pentatonic. Let's go back to E major mode, Ionian mode. They're all the same notes, just starting from the E note instead of the C sharp note in that key structure of E major. Right? The key of E major, C sharp is the 6th note. Right? So the 7th note is E flat. First note or 8th note, or first note again, is E in the key of E major. Right? So we can see C sharp, why it's the 6th note. Or if we go up from the E, F sharp, G sharp, A, we get back to C sharp again, right, and then E again. So I can just sit there and try to find the style, play to the style, learn the style of that track a bit, but only I can safely say that generally speaking, I'm not going to be playing much in the way of bad notes because I'm in that key. So it's absolutely essential to find how to identify a key quickly, right? Got a note here, sounds right. Sounds right. Doesn't sound bad. Sounds bad. Got 3 notes right there. Maybe this is the first note of the key. First half step we got going on. 2 whole steps. Half step doesn't really sound great. Half step, the whole step. Actually, the half step does sound better than the whole step. So maybe that is indeed the first note of this key, which happens to be a C note. So go to C, or wherever C note you want, play your 2 whole steps and a half step pattern, or if you know the scale. I'm actually playing to see them. Sometimes the key will change in the middle of a song, right? So I'm actually hearing this note right here, so, which would be a note in the key of G instead of this note, which is in the key of C. So maybe it's really in the key of G. Might do a couple more deducing factors, just check all the notes. But I would say this is in the key of G major, right? Starting from a 3rd fret on the E string and play my. But if all of a sudden something sounds off, maybe the track changes keys. That could happen too, so be aware of that. I don't really know if this is an example. By playing off key. Some of those notes don't really work very well. Really in the key of G major, but probably more like E minor, which is G major. It's just the E, once again, is the 6th note out of the key of G major. Just because the bass center, sometimes it's hard to say. You know, you have to play with the song a bit to understand where its main tonal center is at. But either G or E, and that would be essentially the key of G major. So hopefully this gives you some idea. Now you want to go back and learn the modes and the scales that I'm playing all down the strings. I'd go back and watch my other videos. Go ahead and stop this here. But I appreciate you listening in, and hopefully this kind of gives you some idea of how to play by ear better. Like I said, humming to notes and bass notes, or just one individual note, can oftentimes help you find that note on the guitar right away. And then from there you have something to start with. You just do your whole steps or half steps from that note, seeing which ones make sense and totally fitting them in to some sequence of the 2 whole steps, half step, and then 3 whole steps and half steps. Which, like I said, is a structure for any major key. If I want to play from G sharp, I play whole step, half step, and I'm playing in the key of G sharp. Right? You know, the next thing is just simply learning how to play them down the strings instead of up just one string. Instead of doing G sharp all in one string, G sharp major, I want to do that G sharp major going down here. I want to learn all the modes, right? So I certainly want to congratulate you for listening to me ramble. Maybe you picked up something out of this on how to find and identify keys better, and your ear will be improved. And certainly encourage you to like and subscribe, because I'm going to ideally have some other videos and tips on how to do stuff like this right here. But certainly encourage you in the meantime to go check out my other videos on how to play all the 7 major modes, so you can play all over the fretboard, right? And in any key, and by ear, if that makes sense. So once again, thanks for listening in. Appreciate you being here, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Leave a like and a subscription. See you next time.